Welcome to GA325 Corporate Campaigns. This is lecture number 2 for week 2, and this is part 1. Reading the typography of publications. Catalogs and magazines, major newspapers, and annual reports involve huge amounts of text. When planning a major publication, a designer must make the best decisions regarding location of the type, choice of typeface, and content spacing. The title, in order for multi-page projects to be successful, the audience has to be able to easily navigate through the large volume of text. Proper relationships between text components can be the key to this. Careful font selection, placement, and spacing by the designer can direct the reader's eye and provide maximum readability and help separate all the different contents into their own areas. Large many-paged projects. The art of optics of spacing, which is an important thing to be able to make sure that the reader can really flow along the words. So spacing of words and letters and paragraphs. Kerning is an important term in typography that you guys have learned about before, but it basically means adjusting the distance between two letters. Sometimes just the default spacing is not good enough, and as a designer we have to go through and make those changes. The shapes of some letter forms can make some distance between letters look increased or decreased, and so, or just overall uneven, so kerning comes into play with that. Every font has a rhythm between letter shapes and the spaces around them. Although the average viewer may not be aware of these, the designer must make adjustments regarding the space in order to enhance the reader's experience. Letter forms can be thought of as positive shapes and the empty space around them as negative shapes. A space or a balance between the positive and negative is attained by not having too much or too little distance between the letters. Two different fonts at the same type size can take up different amounts of space, and you can kind of see with the overlapping of this text too. Sometimes you have to control the leading as well as the kerning in order to get this to look right. So for instance, if you see we have a 32-point font and it's an Arial black versus a 32-point font with Garmund. As you could kind of see, maybe the height might be the same, but as you could see also, it's the Arial black just takes up a lot more space on the page, and it's a little wider. It's not as condensed as the Garmund. So just because something has a 32-point font size, that could change the actual size between fonts. In most publications, running type ranges from 9 to 12-point size font. That's for your body copy. Anything below that would be just too hard for people to read. Words in type sizes above 12 is reserved for more headlines. And legibility means how quickly our eyes can recognize a letter. And larger type sizes may need letters spaced closer together, while some small font sizes often need space between letters increased. So type is measured by the point size, as we know. What can be confusing is that the 2-point size might not be the exact same depending on the font. Smaller font size may require increased space between letters to increase legibility. Due to the styles of typefaces being so vastly different, one style can be easily read at a small size, like a 9-point, while maybe another one might be a little bit more difficult to decipher at that point size. So older typefaces with more decorative lines coming off the edges of letters referred to like serifs, can be hard to make out at a really small point size. So point size is important. There's no main standard. You just kind of have this, you kind of have to take a look at depending on the type of font that you're using. Building paragraph structure. Paragraphs can be set wide, narrow, and aligned in various different ways. The width of a paragraph is based on type size, the word spacing, space between the lines, which is called the leading. Too much distance between words in a paragraph can create unattractive gaps or rivers around words. So the basic text structure in a publication is the mighty paragraph. The graphic designer's job is to make sure that the paragraphs have the highest degree of readability and legibility. To control this, we can adjust the distances between words and lines. Strokes and counters in letters can create a rhythm that you should sustain by leaving the amount of space between words equal to placing an invisible lowercase I between them. Leading refers to how much interline space exists, the distance between the lines. The word leading comes from the practice of increasing line space in early metal presses by adding a strip of lead between the two lines of type. Adjusting the amount of leading between lines impacts the legibility and visual texture of the paragraph. Parts of letters that go above the top of the font's lowercase x, are also known as the x height, is known as an ascender. That would be kind of like a lowercase b or a lowercase d. That vertical part goes above that x height. Part of the letters that go below the baseline are known as descenders. So for instance, the lowercase g, that lowercase y there in gray, as you can see. If lines are too close together, these two parts of the letters may touch or overlap, and that's not good for readability. It might be kind of hard for somebody to really make out what that letter really is. When this happens, the reader's eye will stop to try to differentiate between the different words and slow down the reading. We need to prevent this by adding space between the lines. On the other hand, too much space between the lines will also reduce readability. It takes them a little longer to move their eye down that far. Wider paragraph lines take longer to read for the reader to comprehend. Interline spacing is adjusted with the paragraph width in mind. Digital type no longer requires extended measurement and layout because page layout programs such as InDesign do most of the work for us. This does not mean it does all the work for us or that it can make design decisions for us. Character count refers to how many letters or words are in a paragraph line. We try to adjust the paragraph lines so that there are not too many or too few words per line. 8 to 12 is the common amount. Then the chosen font, because it makes words larger or smaller, directly impacts the word count per line. This concludes the Week 2 presentation, Part 1. Stay tuned for Part 2.